Hello again, welcome back to my channel. For those who are new here, my name is Elena and this is Softskill.Atelier, where I teach you all the skills you need to bring your fashion ideas to life, from concept to completion. On today's video, I'm going to sew a spaghetti strap top with a bust dart, or a spaghetti strap dress if you want to make it longer like I do on this video. I used the pattern I have traced on a previous video. If you also want to trace your own pattern, make sure you watch that video first and then come back to this one. If you don't want to trace your own pattern, I have a novelty for you. I have created my own Softskill.Atelier pattern based on that traced pattern before. You can get the pattern in my Etsy shop in 5 different sizes. Just look up Softskill.Atelier on Etsy or click on the link in the description below. The fabric I use for this video is a leftover fabric from my friend. It's a mesh in nude and black. I used a double layer to create a more interesting effect and also to make it less transparent. On a personal note, I see how my views are growing and that makes me very happy. But what I also see is that more than 80% of my viewers have not subscribed to my channel yet. So if you like what I do and you want to support me, make sure you subscribe to my channel. That would really help me out. You could do it right now. I'll wait. Alright, I think that was enough time to subscribe to my channel, and I would say let's get started by looking at all the tools and materials we need for today's session. For today's session, we need the following tools: fabric and paper scissors, pins, measuring tape, threads in 2 different colors. One in the color of your project and one in a completely different color. An elastic band, a hand sewing needle, a safety pin, and a ruler or a set square. So, as I mentioned already before, I will use the pattern I have traced on a previous video. Back then, I created a pattern from a simple spaghetti strap top with a bust dart. Now, I have an idea of how I want to alter the pattern to make something nice with the fabric I got from my friend. The idea is to make a sexy nightgown dress kind of thing. I am obsessed with Nancy Doyaka's work, and sometimes I wish I would have invented these beautiful mesh creations. But all respect to her work, I'm heavily inspired by these designs while I was looking at the mesh I got donated. So I will alter the basic pattern slightly and add some lacing on the back and also a single lace in front to make the whole piece more interesting. Additionally, I add a few more seams. I will also bring back the neck holder look for this piece. I bet we will see much more of that in the next months. The adjustments I made are the following. I added more length to the hemline so it would reach over my hip. I cut the pattern in half underneath the bust part. I made another split right in the middle of the lower part, so we'll have a seam going all the way down to the hemline. I also split the back in half to have the same vertical seam. Before I started sewing, I took the pattern and digitalized it and graded it to several different sizes. So if you want to create the same design along with me, feel free to go to my Etsy shop and get it before you continue with the video. The pattern is available as a print-out PDF, so you can print it at home and assemble it by taping the pages together. I picked the size 36. A little heads up, I forgot that the lockdown year made me eat a lot of pizza and not move enough. So I can tell you already now that I should have picked a bigger size to be actually able to model the dress by myself. But when I realized it, it was too late already to make some changes. So for this time, my mannequin will replace my modeling for me. I cut out everything in both colors twice. The middle parts from the back and the front will be cut out on the fold. Everywhere else, add 1 cm seam allowance. Before removing the pattern, make sure you mark the darts. It is quite hard to mark some lines on that mesh fabric because the chalk or other markers won't really stick on the fabric. That's why I marked the dart with a thread. Take the thread that is a different color than the rest of your project so you can see it well and later easily remove all the bits of the thread. So what I did is flip the pattern to the other side so you can see the dart line through the fabric. I followed the lines with my stitches. Make sure the stitches go through both layers of the fabric and are not too small. And always leave some loose thread hanging. You will see in a second why we need that. This is a very traditional tailoring technique I learned in my internship at a men's tailor almost 10 years ago, where I had to assist making custom tailored suits. We use this technique to copy every single mark from one side to the other side, so we know all the time where the marks are. This is very helpful, especially if you want to make sure that all your layers of fabric have the same marks at the exact same spot. When you're done with marking the darts, there will be a tricky part that determines whether you actually have all the information on all sides or not. You slowly lift the upper piece of the fabric and slide your fabric scissors in between the two layers and carefully cut the threads apart. So each layer of fabric has a part of threads sticking on their side. Make sure you don't cut into your fabric during that process. Immediately pin the marked dart sides together and bring them to the sewing machine. Don't lose too much time and don't let your project sit around. The risk that the threads are falling out is quite high, especially with such thin fabric. At the tailor's place, that risk was not very high because we worked with a thick wool fabric. Now pick a matching color and sew the darts on all 4 pieces. Before we continue with the dress pieces, we will create the straps for different places of the dress. So I was not actually measuring how long my straps need to be because I was not sure how much I actually need. I was just cutting about 4 meters of stripes that are 3 centimeters wide. I fold them in half the long way and sew them together on about 5 millimeters next to the edge. The straps need now to be flipped around. There are a few tricks for that, but I will show you one that doesn't require any special tools except a safety pin and some scissors. Make a little cut into the tube, don't cut into the seam. Now secure your safety pin above the cut and pull it through the cut you just have created. Push the safety pin through the whole tube. The attached fabric will follow and the tube is going to be flipped inside out. Do this with all the prepared stripes and give them a press with the iron. Make sure the iron is not too hot because the mesh fabric tends to melt quite easily. Now go back to the bralette pieces with the darts. Place one piece of each color on top of each other with the darts fold being on the outside. Take 2 straps and place them inside the 2 layers. On the top for the neck collar strap and take another strap, cut it in half and place each part on one side of the middle line, so it will eventually be lacing for the front. Now sew the bits together on the top and then the middle line. Make sure you properly hit the straps and maybe even sew twice over the parts where the straps are placed. Before you flip the pieces inside out, cut back the seam allowance. Since everything is transparent, we need to make sure that the inside looks fine too. After flipping it around, you can give them a quick press. I think these bits look already so pretty. The lower front part I'll be sewing together with a French seam. Again, I place always a piece of each color on top of each other and pin them together with the next pattern piece. For those who don't know how to create a French seam, I linked my seam video here and also in the description with the exact time code. It is basically 2 seams. First you sew the pieces together on the pretty side and then the second seam is wrapping the first one so that you have a wrapped seam allowance in the inside. That is the ideal seam for transparent fabrics. When all pieces are sewn together, you can attach the upper part, also with a French seam. Slowly you can already see how the dress is coming together. Now we are putting our focus to the back part. Before sewing the back parts together, we will add some loops in between the seams. The loops will afterwards be used for lacing the strap. I have some marks on my pattern where I want my loops to be placed. Obviously, you can place yours differently. To mark the position, I will make little cuts into the seam allowance. I take the outside pattern parts and place the loops on there. Before I sew the pieces together, I want to sew them onto these pieces so they won't move while I sew the dress together. after securing them with a few sewing machine stitches, cut off the excess bits, sew together the whole back part again with a French seam. This time you need to make sure that the loops always stick out and are not getting into the way too much. Now take the last strap, run it through the loops so that the end of the strap will be on the lowest loop. I find this the most satisfying part on the whole project. So I hope you like that too. Before we sew the front and the back part together, we need to take care of the upper back end by applying that piece of elastic on it. As an alternative, you can also apply a normal band or just fold the ends and stitch over it. I use it to gather the edges a bit so it sits on your back without a gap. Zigzag it on the pretty side of the fabric and fold it over. Make sure the elastic is about 2 to 3 centimeters shorter than your backside, so it has a bit of a gathering function. Now it is finally time to sew the front and the back together, again with our good old French seam. Since I had already a feeling that my hips might not fit into the size I picked, I sewed the pieces together only to the waistline. I know I kind of spoiled it already, but it's time to try the dress on for the first time. So here we go. It does actually have a nice fit on the top, but as I have predicted already, I couldn't close it over my hip. So after a bit of consideration, whether I should add an extra piece of fabric on the side seam or if I should just close it and make it fit to someone with another hip, I decided to keep it the way it is to actually represent the pattern I have created. Also, I have to accept that I cannot make a new one with the same fabric since it's only a leftover fabric and therefore very limited. But as a sustainable fashion designer who mainly works with dead stock, upcycling and leftovers, having only one shot is what I'm used to. So let's do the last steps. After I have completely closed the side seams, the hemline needs to have a finishing tune. I fold it up by 1 centimeter and go over it with a zigzag, all the way around. The ends of the straps also need some fixing to keep the ends from fraying and to have a more aesthetic appeal. Just fold them twice and go over it with a straight stitch. And here we go, we have a beautiful sexy mesh dress, and this silver headless friend of mine is doing a great job modeling it for me. Also, in case you're in Berlin, the dress currently is displayed in our shop window at One of a Kind Collective in Kreuzberg. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you could learn something from it. As always, I am looking forward to see some results and I'm happy to get some feedback on my pattern. In the next video, I am going to show you how to construct a skirt pattern from scratch so it actually fits your body. Exactly what I should have done today as well. So if you like my videos, please let me know with a thumbs up and make sure you don't miss any of the upcoming videos by subscribing to Softskill.Atelier channel. I see you next time. Bye!